Good afternoon to those of you in the East, and good morning to our friends here in the West. I'm Janie Sweet. I'm president of the ATS Southern California chapter and a longtime member of the ATS National Board of Directors, as well as the Technion Board of Governors. I'm delighted to be with you today for a very special program. As many of you know, one of the American Technion Society's most popular speaker series, the Ilene and Steve Berger Technion Visiting Fellows program, features the university's greatest assets, its students. Known as the Berger Visiting Fellows, these select scholars represent the very soul of the Technion. Their visit provides an inspiring glimpse into the lives and minds of those who will help shape the future of Israel and the world. Some of you may have joined us on Sunday when we had the opportunity to meet with all of this year's fellows. Today, we are very pleased to be featuring the amazing women fellows, Ayelet Hershkovitz and Kitsmiller and Hila Rubenstein. All of these incredibly accomplished women are getting advanced degrees at the Technion, and all of them have inspiring stories to share with us. I'm also so happy that the Technion's Dean of Students, Professor Ayelet Fishman, is with us today as well. Professor Fishman is an accomplished scientist in her own right and can share an historical perspective on what it's like to be a woman in STEM in Israel and at the Technion specifically. She will also shine a light on how the Technion supports its students, not only in the classroom and lab, but in their day-to-day lives. Women supporting women and advancing the idea that a woman's place can be in the lab is a concept embraced by many of our donors at the ATS. From Roz August's support of the GEMS program, designed to bring girls in Israel to the Technion for a Women in Tech program that inspires girls to embrace STEM education, to efforts of people like the Richard and Rosalie Davison Foundation to help recruit additional female faculty members, our donors touch every aspect of the idea that women can and should be a part of the scientific and technical landscape. We are delighted to have some fine examples of this concept with us today. And we hope you will consider joining us for the Women of ATS or WATS mission to Israel in 2022. Where we can see firsthand the amazing work of women across Israel. My dear friend and fellow board member, Linda Kovan, and I are co-chairing this extraordinary journey, and Linda will tell you more about WATS after today's program. I'm turning the program over to Dean Fishman now, who will introduce you to these outstanding representatives of Technion excellence. After we hear from all of the students, we'll take questions from you, and so please submit them using the Q&A function on the Zoom screen. And Linda will join us and moderate that segment. Ayelet, it's so nice to see you again. The program is yours.
Thank you, Janie, for such a nice description of our program. And so I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to thank the organizers, and I would like to say a special thanks to the Bergers for sponsoring this student mission. And unfortunately, we cannot be with you in the United States at this time, but we are together with you in our hearts, and we want to share some of what we do here. And I'm extending a warm welcome to you to come to visit us in the Technion the minute we all can meet again. And I'd like to say a few things about my journey. So I'm a Technion graduate myself. I got my first degree and my second degree in the Technion in the Department of Biotechnology and Food Engineering. And probably just because my father suggested that I continue to doctorate studies, I decided to leave for the industry because I felt that I need a break from studying. But sure enough, 2 years after spending in the industry, I started my PhD studies in the Technion while holding a position in the industry. And then I went to do a postdoctorate fellowship in University of Connecticut. I came back to the industry, but then I switched gears and came to the Technion as a PI, as a professor. So I have an industrial period in my life and I have an academic period in my life. And sort of it's closing a circle. So being a student here and now being a professor here. I should also point out that I met my husband in the Technion. when we did undergraduate studies here. And today we have a daughter who is also studying in the Technion. So I really feel connected to the Technion in every way. In the recent year, I've also been the Dean of Students, and I'd like to point out the difference between a faculty dean and the Dean of Students. So a faculty dean is responsible for a specific department, Dean of Electrical Engineering or Dean of Biotechnology and Food Engineering. But as Dean of Students, I'm overseeing all the students on campus. We have about 15,000 students, I would say, roughly speaking, 11,000 undergrads and about 4,000 graduate students. And we give services to all of them. I would like to share my screen and show you some of the things that we do. So basically, the Dean of Students is responsible for everything besides the actual academic life. Okay, so first of all, maybe I'll start with saying that our mission is to foster a dynamic, inclusive, and impartial campus that supports the academic, personal, and social growth of all students in the Technion. And we do that by, we have 7 units, about 70 people working in the Dean's office. And so we have the dormitories, which comprise about 4,500 rooms or apartments. And I should say that it's the largest in any university in Israel, and also the best and also the least expensive. So we pride ourselves with having really the best dorms in Israel, academic-wise, and it draws a lot of students. We're now building 2 new towers of rooms. So hopefully we'll have even more place to for students to be in. And we always have more applications than we have rooms that we can actually give out. And I should point out that we also have apartments for families. We also have a Center for Advancement of Learning. We deal with career development of our students. We have a very extensive and a wonderful psychological counseling center. We, of course, do financial aid, and we help the students. I'll say something about that soon. And we also take care of academic relations and study abroad programs, etc. And of course, culture life and fun on campus. And actually, when I took my office in January 2020, I thought I had many plans for promoting sport activities and fun activities in the Technion. And soon enough, COVID came into our world. And instead of having this pre-COVID picture that you see here on the left of the screen, this is where we are at now. We can only have few people on campus at a time, of course, with masks. And actually now, today, we had a vaccination vehicle coming in. So we're trying to promote and extend vaccination on campus so that we can actually bring more students back. But mostly we're teaching via Zoom, besides laboratories, which are actually being done on campus. So so actually we had to switch gears into a different mode of action. And so I'll just share with you very few activities that we did. So in Hanukkah, we bought 4,500 sufganiyot, can you imagine? And we delivered them to each dorm, and we put them hanging in a bag like this. So each apartment, this is one of the happy students who received the sufganiyot. Each one got a sufganiya. We also did fun activities in Zoom. So this was a stand-up show, and all the students were in their dorms or in their apartments. We also had a cooking festival. So this is Omer Miller here in this yellow box, and he's a famous chef in Tel Aviv. And he gave us activity, and each student filmed themselves while they were cooking in their rooms. And later they sent photos of their water chestnut gnocchi or whatever it was. and there's a lot of fun, and we try to do the best under the conditions that we have. I want to tell you, since we are in Women for Women or promoting women, I want to tell you about something new despite COVID that we're actually opening this year. And the program is called Pro Women. And actually it began with a meeting that I had with two students from the chemistry department who came to my office and said that they want to have a new a program on campus for undergraduate students, girl students, women students, and they asked my support. And so we have, this is actually, you see here, it's a program that wants to empower women, empower students, basically by providing a good networking surrounding or environment, and bringing role model women that are successful women in the industry to give talks and share their experience. And we have two groups. One is sponsored by Microsoft, especially for computer science and electrical engineering students. And the other one, I asked the president of the Technion to provide support for this, since I needed to keep my money for financial aid for the students. And for this year, he gave me support to have a second group of students from all other departments. And we're actually opening this on March. And it's going to last for the entire semester. And as I said, it's going to provide student girls with opportunity to spend time with each other and to see successful women, not only academics, of course, but also academics, to give them tips and inspiration. And so I want to continue with the students. And before that, I just want to thank you, all our Technion supporters, for all your continuous support to the Technion, to our students. I want to say special thanks for the financial aid or the emergency fund that you provided us, which allowed my office to help students that were hit hard by COVID-19. Many of our students got laid off their jobs, student jobs, working in the restaurants or fast food or shops. And also many of them had crises in their families. And this emergency fund enabled us to give them immediate help in order to pay for their tuition or pay for their dorms so that they don't drop out of school. So again, I'm really thankful to all of you. And I think that's a long enough introduction. And I would like to welcome Anne Kitsmiller. Hi, Anne, it's a pleasure to have you with us. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm so honored to be a Berger Fellow this year, and I'm really happy to be here. So
great. So please, why don't you share with us, with the nice people that are here with us, your story?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Why?
Yeah. My name is Anne Kitsmiller. I'm a graduate student in the Department of Aerospace Engineering here at the Technion. I'm originally from Oregon. I grew up, born and raised. I went to Washington University in St. Louis. And then I ended up working in the aerospace industry in St. Louis for 5 years before my husband and I moved to Israel together. So when we moved to Israel, I decided that the best way to continue my career in the aerospace industry was to, come up through the education system in the Technion. Our department is very connected to industry. It's very well known. And I knew that would be the best place for me to kind of continue my career as an engineer, starting over here in Israel. And it's just been an amazing experience. I was welcomed with open arms, and it's, I have connections to industry. My advisor has really helped me, acclimate to Israeli society. And I couldn't have asked for a better welcome to life here in Israel. So that's kind of how I ended up at the Technion. And now I'll share a little bit about our research project. We're actually building a research missile. If you think kind of what SpaceX has been doing recently, if you've seen in the news, they will launch a rocket, and then instead of the rocket, being single use and then just becoming trash afterwards, they're able to actually land the rocket, and reuse it for future launches. So that's something that we're trying to do with missiles in our lab and on our project. Because not all missiles, you don't have to necessarily hit the target every time when you're doing testing. In operational use, that's definitely what you'd want to do. But in the testing phase, there's a lot of testing that needs to happen before a missile or some big project becomes operational. So for example, if we're just testing like a camera, one very useful feature would be to test the missile, fly it, and then if we could land and recover it and reuse the missile, that would save a lot of money in the development cost of a new defense program. So that's what we're trying to do on our research project. We are actually building a missile. We're supposed to fly it this year, which is really exciting. And our project is really special because it's a joint project between the Technion and the Technical University of Munich. Our universities have a long-standing relationship, and the project is funded by both their Ministry of Defense and our Ministry of Defense. One other really cool aspect of our project is that it's a joint project between graduate students and undergraduate students. So the undergraduates participate as part of their senior design, kind of the culmination of their undergraduate degree. And as graduate students, we get to help mentor them and guide them and maybe help them with things that they might not be exposed to yet until they get to industry. So that's been a really rewarding experience for me to kind of help the undergrads and also learn from them. It's just a lot of fun, to participate on a big project like that. So when we were asked, to kind of prepare for this talk and think about what we wanted to share with women in STEM, I was thinking of what advice I would have wanted as a young engineer. And for me, what I would tell myself is that to find what you're passionate about, and if you don't know, that's okay, but find what you're passionate about and then just give it everything you've got. When I was, kind of talking to my husband about this, he reminded me that we have a painting on the wall over there that says, find a cause that's larger than yourself and then give your life to it. So when I think about what I'm passionate about solving hard problems, making significant technical contributions and also helping others. And when I think back to my work in the aerospace industry, I had the opportunity to solve hard problems and I was making technical contributions that were used in the field. And I was very proud, to support the American defense industry as well as the Israeli defense industry. But as far as helping people and, maybe making the world a better place, I don't know that I necessarily got that completely from my work in the aerospace industry. So while I was in St. Louis, I volunteered as a teacher at the International Institute, which is, kind of the absorption basket for all refugees and immigrants that came through the Midwest. So it was really meaningful to me to help mentor high school students, immigrant students in math and English. I wanted them to be able to reach their full potential and just know that they had someone cheering them on. And for me, that was a really big, one of the reasons I was able to succeed as an engineer, a woman in STEM, is I had people cheering me on and I wanted to be that for other students as well. So even since coming to Israel, I'm still in touch with my high school students from St. Louis. We, do homework over Zoom. So that's been a lot of fun to keep in touch with them. Yeah, I'm just very thankful for those relationships. So back to my time in industry a little bit, I'm sure many of you know the road isn't easy. There are setbacks, there's adversity. But I think what really defines us as individuals is how we respond to that adversity, and just taking it and using it as fuel to propel us forward and just the grit to keep going. I think most of the adversity I experienced was probably as a young engineer rather than as a woman. I lived or worked in a seniority dominated society. It was very hierarchical, which is, just the way some industries work. So as a young engineer, my technical work was ripped apart. And that's okay because it really encouraged me to think about what I was going to get asked when I was presenting my work and really make bulletproof presentations, make sure that my work was solid and that no one could poke holes in anything that I had done. So it really encouraged me to be a better presenter, communicator, engineer. And I think all of those things that I learned along the way made me, who I am today. So right now I'm at this stage in my thesis, my research, where I'm starting to write my thesis. And in our thesis, we have a section, it's an acknowledgements page where we thank our advisor, we thank our spouse for being supportive. But really, as I'm writing this in my head, I want to thank like all of the jerks, the people that made my road really difficult, because I learned so much about myself and I became a better engineer by overcoming all of these challenges that, you know, were thrown at me as a very young and naive engineer. And I got over it, and I am the problem solver I am today because of that. So when I think about who made me the woman in STEM that I am today, it's really the people that didn't believe in me, you know, that made me who I am.
And you know what we say in the army in Israel, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah, exactly. So something like that. I'll put that in my thesis too.
So maybe you can share, I know you prepared some slides to share.
Yeah, I would be happy to. Let me share my screen. Okay, so this is a picture of our research missile. It's in the wind tunnel here at the Technion. This isn't the missile itself. It's a 2/3 size model that we do testing on to look at the aerodynamic properties of it. So this is our research project. I also, at the Technion, I participate in the soccer team. So this is a picture of the soccer team from last season. This season, we only had practices. We didn't have games, you know, according to the COVID guidelines at the time. So the soccer team is a really big family, and there are Jews, Muslims, and Christians on the team. It's a really wonderful group of girls. And this last slide, so my husband and I, we foster a guide dog puppy. She's in training. She'll live with us for about a year before she goes on to help a blind person. So this is her. She came home with us at 2 months old. She weighed about 12 pounds. And right now her birthday is actually tomorrow, but this picture, she was 10 months old. She weighs like 65 pounds. You know, she's almost as big as us. And she'll be going back to the organization soon to continue her advanced training to help a blind person. But we love her a lot, and you know we know she's going to make someone's life great. So I think that's.
And so let me just ask you one question. Since you've done undergraduate studies in the US and now you're doing graduate studies in Israel in the Technion, is there any comment you can say about, you know, studying there versus here, or what makes the Technion special?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is just the demographic of students. Like in the US, students are much younger because there isn't Army service. You know, at the Technion, for the most part, students come after their Army service. I know there are exceptions where there are some students before, but that you're at a later stage in life at the Technion, you know, students are really, for the most part, they know what they want to study. They're very committed. And I think in the US, because students are younger, they have, you know, maybe they don't know exactly what they want to study. They have more time to figure it out. So it's more of like an experiential 4 years of college rather than, you know, being dedicated to your field. So I think that's the biggest difference. And at the Technion especially, we're so lucky to have such strong connections to industry. You know, students have the opportunity to have student jobs at companies, which is huge. You know, they can decide if they want to work in industry. So I think we're really lucky to have those resources. And I hope schools in the US start to, you know, adopt some more of those relationships with industry to help, you know, propel students to careers. So.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And now I can ask Hila to join us, and we'll see you later, Anne, in the Q&A.
Hi, everyone.
Hello,
I hope
Hila.
you can
How are
hear me
you?
well. I'm fine, thank you. So hello, my name is Hila. I'm 30 years old. I was born and raised in Israel. And now I'm in my first year as a PhD student in the Faculty of Chemistry in the Technion. So my journey to the Technion is a story about determination and overcoming my insecurities and self-doubt, of where I never felt like science and chemistry and mathematics and technology is my strong suit. Actually, I want to share a story. I thought about what I'm going to say today, but now I've heard Anne, and she talked about negative people in her life that brought her down, and she needed to work on that. And so that made me remember something that happened to me in childhood, and I wanted to share this with you. When I was in my 6th grade, I needed to do some tests to get into this private school. So these tests were with math and grammar and English, and I passed the tests, and I got into this private school. And I went to my math teacher in the 6th grade, and I told her that I'm happy that I got into this private school. And she told me, really? But you're not good at math. And this was, this was a very negative validation that I got from an authority figure, my teacher at the time. And unfortunately, it's those bad memories that we have, negative situations that we go through, that we remember for the rest of our lives. It's been more than 20 years now. And it made such an impact on me. And I think I never felt like I'm smart enough maybe to be in science after that. That really crushed my soul, I remember. So I remember that when
I'm to invite this teacher to your PhD graduation.
Yeah, I try not to think about her anymore, really. So when I thought about what is my advice for young women, it's basically just ignoring all the negative people and focusing on positive people in your life that will push you and help you to push yourself basically. So going back to my story, at the high school, I majored in chemistry. I majored in chemistry mostly because I loved my chemistry teacher. But the truth is that I wasn't that good in chemistry in high school. And I had to work very hard to get good grades. So by the time I graduated from high school, I ended up really loving chemistry because I went so in depth with the science and the subject because I wanted to get good grades, that at the end, I really loved chemistry after high school. And I thought that after my army service, I will study chemistry. But still, I wasn't so sure that it will be the right fit for me because it wasn't so easy in high school. But then after I joined the army, I served in the intelligence corps. I served in unit 8200. And that job was very technological, actually, and it was extremely challenging and also extremely satisfying. And I participated in operations, and suddenly people wanted to hear my opinions and took my advice. And those were very important people. Those were commanders, and I felt like I have an impact and a value to bring. And I ended up being very good at my job in the army, and I even won an excellence award. So this was a very good feedback that I got and good validations. And I think that this is when I started to gain confidence that I can actually do whatever I want. Sorry, my computer is there. I can do whatever I want as long as I work hard and I'm determined enough. So after I completed my army service, I enrolled to the Technion for chemistry to do my bachelor's degree in chemistry. It's a 3-year program. And the first 2 years were extremely difficult as well. It was very hard for me. And it was only in the last year that things started to click for me and that I really started to enjoy the research aspect of what I was doing. And after I finished my bachelor's degree, I was thinking that I really love science and I really love research. I just started loving this and I want to continue and study chemistry and be a scientist. So I wanted to enroll to grad school. But the problem was that my grades were not good enough to be accepted to grad school, actually. So I had to do an interview with the academic committee of my faculty. And basically, I needed to convince them that this is my dream, that I'm very serious about my studies. And I guess that worked because they gave me an amazing opportunity to enroll to grad school despite my grades. So I'm very grateful that they saw my potential and gave me this opportunity. So now I've done my master's in chemistry, and now I'm a PhD in chemistry. So I've done all my degrees in the Technion. And I want to tell you a bit about my research. So I'm working on 2 projects right now. I'm going to start a project in a few weeks from now. It's about, we're trying to develop a new method to monitor air quality. So like pollution, detecting very low concentrations of contaminants in the air. This is going to be my main project as a PhD. And it's very interesting for me to tap into this world of environment and try to solve issues regarding that topic of environment. But I'm going to start this in a few weeks. The project I'm doing right now, I've started this in my master's. So I've been working on this for several years. We are developing a method to do imaging and chemical analysis at the same time. Through surfaces that we cannot see through. So this is a different project. For example, like the skin on our body. So it's sort of like an MRI machine or a CT or an X-ray, where it images the inside of our body. And at the same time, it's performing chemical analysis, like biopsy, for example, just not in an invasive manner. And this technology can be implemented in many other fields. For example, security, to find hidden explosives, for example, or in food safety, to monitor fruits and vegetables through their skin or their peel. So I started this in my master's, and in my master's, I did a proof of concept for the technology, and I worked a lot on models that I've built and created in my lab. And now in my PhD, we're doing the transition from working on models to work on real life biological samples, for example, apples. And that's when the complexity starts to rise. So we need to do the adaptation, the correct adaptation for our system to this new situation of working on real life samples. So this is our main challenge right now that we're working on. And that's it basically about my research. And I also want to share with you that I received fellowship from the ATS. And I want to share with you also another personal story of mine about how the Technion supported me tremendously in a very difficult time in my life. During my master's, the last year, it's a very stressful year. You need to do as many experiments as you can to get all the results as you can, write a paper, submit everything. And during that year, my mom, she was diagnosed with cancer. And unfortunately, she passed away a year and a half ago. And she was sick for about a year. And I didn't get to finish everything that I needed to finish because I wasn't a lot in the Technion. I tried to spend as much time as I can with my mom. And I was about to lose my degree and I was about to lose my fellowship. And at the end, I needed to go to the faculty of chemistry, to the secretary, and I told them that I need help. And immediately, they didn't ask any questions. Immediately, the secretary, she talked with my advisor and went to the dean. And in a few minutes, they fixed everything for me. They extended everything. They gave me a few more months to finish everything and to wrap up my degree. And the most important thing is that the Technion extended my fellowship for that time. So I really could focus and invest my time on my research and to finish everything, to wrap up my degree without worrying about finance. So I'm very, very happy that I can be here with you and share with you how the Technion supported me, not just in my darkest times, but also in not so crazy times, just giving me the opportunity to enroll to grad school. So yeah, that's it. And I have pictures that I want to share. I'll make it quick.
I see your story is a story about determination.
Yes, definitely. It was a hard work getting here. So do you see my screen?
Yes. You
Okay.
can put it in presentation mode.
Yes. So here on the right, you can see my fiance and I. We are waiting for the corona to be over so we can get married finally. On the left, you see my parents and I at graduation from bachelor's degree. It was a very emotional day. They were very proud of me. It was a very, very happy day. I remember it was amazing. I'm very happy that I could share this with them, especially with my mom. This is a picture of the Golan Heights. This is where I served in the military. This is one of the most beautiful places in Israel, I believe. So I warmly advise to any one of you, if you ever visit Israel, go and travel and hike in the Golan Heights because it's beautiful. This is the view I would wake up to every day when I was a soldier, and it just made my day, really. And this is some pictures from my lab. So in here on the left, you can see the laser that I'm working on. This is our energy source. It's a very unique laser. It's very big. It takes up almost the entire lab. In the middle, you see this table. I built all the setups for my experiment, and I can customize my setups for my needs. And here you see me in a mask. This was taken before COVID-19. Before masks became mainstream. This is the famous N95 mask. So I saw this picture and I thought how funny it is that I didn't have any clue that this is going to be our new normal, basically. Yes, that's it. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing your story with us. And I think it's something that us women have, determination and maybe insecure for sometimes, but with good foresight to overcome difficulties. And I'm so glad that you're with us in the Technion, and good luck with your research. Sounds wonderful.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited for the future, very much. I'm very happy to be here and I love what I'm doing.
It shows.
What I chose to do and accomplished.
Wonderful. So thank you.
Thank
and
you.
Now I would ask Ayala Tershkovitz to come on. Hi, Ayelet.
Hi.
So I just have to say that Ayelet is actually my own PhD student. And I see that she's in the lab and it's almost 9 p.m. So she's a very dedicated PhD student. So please, why don't you share with us your story and your research?
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Ayelet. As Ayelet said, I'm a PhD student. I am 35 years old and I am married to Adi, who is also a Technion graduate. We live in Haifa and we have 2 young kids. We have a 4-year-old daughter and my son, who is 1.5 years. A couple of years before I was born, my parents fulfilled a lifelong dream and immigrated to Israel. They made Aliyah from the United States. I was raised in a very, very Zionistic, very loving home with a twin brother and a younger sister, a dog, parrot, hamster, everything. It was a great childhood. Most of it was spent in Rosh Hashanah, which is a city about 20 minutes away from Tel Aviv. In the 9th grade, I started volunteering for Israel's ambulance service for the Magen David Adom, MDA, as a first aid provider. I was also in charge of the volunteers at the station. I was responsible for their schedule and for their training. I spent most of my high school studying at the ambulances. That was my life. I then, after my high school, I served in a classified intelligence unit in the IDF. I served for 6 years, attaining the rank of captain. I was in charge of several projects that were at the core mission of the unit. I was lucky enough also to be chosen to head some of the training programs in our unit. I finished with excellence and I even received a letter of recommendation from Major General Amos Yadlin, who was at the time the head of military intelligence. And I received an Army scholarship for my first degree, and that enabled me to study here at the Technion. After I still do reserve service, by the way, still today. I do it. I love giving back. My friends are still there. They call me whenever I'm needed, and I love doing it. I love being able to be a part of the next generation of soldiers in my unit. After my military service, I traveled, like many Israelis, between the army service and university. And it was actually when I was in India when I needed to start signing up for universities. And I was very happy to discover that my grades were good enough to apply to the Technion. And as I was applying, all these high school fears came creeping into my mind. I was not one of my stronger, my math was not one of my stronger suits. Math still scares me till today. And I think I was very lucky to be traveling with a very close friend who told me exactly what I needed to hear, which was he believed in me and he thinks I can do it. And I've done much harder things. He's wrong. The Technion is difficult, but he said, I believe in you. And the most important thing that he told me was that I would be more disappointed in myself if I didn't give it a try. And he's very right. He was very correct. And I was very lucky to have him in my corner during that time. And it was one of my greatest decisions was to register and to start studying. I started studying that fall, and I'm now in my third degree here, and I absolutely love it. During my first degree, not only did I make amazing friends, I also met my husband, who is also a Technion graduate. And then I continued on to my master's at the Faculty of Biotechnology and Food Engineering. I've always known that I wanted to be an engineer, and I loved biology and science in high school. So it was a very good combination for me. During my master's degree, as I said, it was under the supervision of Professor Amra Mor. There are approximately 1 million deaths every year from antimicrobial resistance, which means that bacteria that cause disease to humans are resistant to everyday antibiotics. And what we did in the lab was we created these compounds that kill and weaken the bacteria. And what we could do is take these compounds that weaken the bacteria and take antibiotics that are not in use, and we could combine them together. And we saw that we were able to now treat the disease that was caused by the bacteria. And we even tried it on mice, experiments with mice, and we saw that we had very good results. It was very interesting and very important. Today, I'm studying towards my doctorate under the supervision of you, Professor Ilene Fishman, at the Interdisciplinary Program for Biotechnology. My research is focused on Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's is an irreversible neurodegenerative disease of the brain. It is incurable. My great aunt suffered from it. I have many friends that sadly have family members who suffer from this disease. It is horrible, and today's treatments do not stop the progression of the disease. They only treat the other symptoms. My research involves using enzymes, which are nature's biocatalysts, in order to stop the progression of the disease and treat it. And what I do is I check different aspects of the disease. And one of the coolest things I do is I actually grow neurons in a plate. I take neurons, I grow them, and I treat them, and I'm able to see how our treatment affects it. And it's never in my wildest dreams did I know in high school and also in my undergraduate that this is what I would be doing, and I love it. It's very challenging. I find it's very important, and I really love my research, and I love coming to work every day. So it's definitely not to be taken for granted. Another thing is that besides my academic studies, one of the things I'm most enthusiastic about is teaching. I am a teaching assistant in 2 lab courses. I instruct undergraduate students. I love lab courses because it enables me to pass on my love for research. It enables me to speak to undergraduate students and explain to them what everyday life looks like in research and what impact we can have. I also volunteer with high school students from a local high school who major in biotechnology. Besides that, I love hiking with my family. Now with COVID, we are spending a lot of time outdoor and in nature, and when weather permits, it's one of our favorite pastimes. And I also love baking with my 4-year-old daughter. She loves pink, so we make pink cupcakes almost every weekend and pass it on to the rest of the family. With that, I'm also going to share my screen, and I'll show you. So here's my family. Adi is my husband. He is a mechanical engineer and also received his MBA from the Technion. My son is 1.5 years old. His name is Amit, and he loves leaping off couches to whoever is walking by. He's very good at it. And my daughter is 4. Her name is Shani. And when I was thinking about this webinar and thinking what I wanted to convey, I was thinking I was reminded of our first lockdown. I spent many hours with both my kids, and my daughter was just over 3, and we kept on saying, we can do anything, we can do anything. That's what we kept on telling us every day. And one morning I came to open up a jar, and I couldn't open the jar. The lid was stuck and I couldn't. And my daughter burst out crying and kept on saying, but you can do anything, you can do anything. And honestly, my heart was broken at that moment. And I realized that my message to her as a mother and as a parent was wrong. It's not that we can do anything. And at that moment, I changed it that we try everything, we attempt everything, and if we need help, we ask for it, and we practice and we get better. And now she says, we try all the time, we try. And it just reminded me of studying at the Technion. It reminded me of my first year when I reached those math classes with fear, fear in my eyes. And I realized that I had to try. And I was lucky enough to have the help of my friends and study groups and tutors that we got for free from the Technion, almost for free from the Technion. It was amazing, and I'm forever grateful for the Technion and for my friends from my best friends now from the undergraduate student program that enabled me to continue on all the way to my PhD. That story just reminded me what I think my message is to myself, to try and to not be scared. As I said at the beginning, in India, I think that it's scarier for me to not try something, and not so much as fail at it or not be so good at it, because I'll anyway learn something from it. That's it. That's the next one is myself and the other teaching assistants at the lab courses. Ever since COVID started, we have been filming our prep labs in order to send it to the undergraduate students so they can come more prepared to the lab. This is one of our nicer, more colorful lab courses, and we even have one tomorrow. We're all very excited. And this final picture is a glimpse into my life during this last lockdown. My daughter asked for a tent where we could read stories. And this is how my house looked like for almost 2 weeks. We spent most of our meals on the floor, but it added a little bit more, I would say, joy to every day, and it was great. So, and that's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ayelet. So if I see that your life is so full with kids, so how do you do it? How do you cope juggle
Yeah.
Lab work and family life? And
I think the main thing and the practical aspect of it is I have an amazing husband at home, and we split our time. He also loves his job, and now during COVID, when the kids have been home, we've been doing week by week. One of us has started really early in the morning, and we switch in the afternoon, and the other one goes to work until late at night. But I think mainly, and even not during COVID times, I think it's what enables me to be here and to do what I love is the fact that I have a support system. My husband and I, we communicate what we need professionally and emotionally and every day. And he knows if I have an experiment that begins in the morning and ends in the evening, my mother-in-law, my parents, they all come in and join and are there. I'm very, very grateful and very lucky to have that support system, because they also know that I need this for myself. I love it. I love the research, and I love it. I see myself working afterwards in the industry and continuing to find amazing projects that I hope will do better and will be better for health, and these are the things I like to do. So
I'm sure you'll succeed.
I hope so. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing with us your story. And I'm now happy to turn the program over to Linda Coven, please. You're on mute, Linda.
Hello, everyone, and thank you to these amazing women that we've heard so much from. My name is Linda Covan, and just like Janie, I'm also a member of the ATS National Board, the Technion Board of Governors, and also a member of the ATS Detroit Board of Directors. I've had the pleasure of meeting so many Technion students over my many years of association with the ATS, and each year I say, how could it get any better? It just did. So I'm going to take this opportunity. This program gives us the opportunity to share the exciting news with all of you that there will be a Woman of American Technion, Watts, mission to Israel happening in 2022 when it's safe to travel. This will be a fabulous first-class trip for entrepreneurial women and their family and friends. A few of the highlights might include food, spa, fashion, maybe a little shopping, but most importantly, we'll be spending a lot of time in Haifa at the Technion. And we hope that during this upcoming trip, we will be able to meet with today's panelists and other amazing women who are working to make the world a better place. Now let's bring all of today's guests back to the screen. I'm happy to now take any questions you may have for these remarkable women. Please use the Q&A function and we'll get as many of your questions answered as we possibly can. I wanted to just ask one quick question before we get started. Hila, can you just tell me a little bit about your armed service?
Mute.
Sorry, my army service?
Right.
Well, I cannot get into specifics about what I did. It's classified. But I did majored in high school. I majored in the Arabic language because I knew from when I was 15, 16 that I want to serve in intelligence in the army. So I definitely utilized my Arabic skills in what I did in the army. And that's all I can tell you, basically.
Well, thank you.
She'll have to kill you if she talks, so let's leave it at that, right?
And I have another question. And could Anne talk about why she made Aliyah and what it means to her working with the aerospace industry in Israel?
Sure. I knew from a young age that I wanted to make Aliyah even since I was a teenager. I grew up going to Jewish summer camp. I came on study abroad programs in Israel. And I was also here for a full year, actually, between high school and college. But the decision to move away from my family, I didn't take that lightly, especially while my grandmother was still alive. I couldn't justify moving so far away from her. She passed away 3 years ago at the age of 93. And my husband and I decided at that time, we would move to Israel and start, kind of our new adventure together. So I had always wanted to be in Israel. I think we just, waited for the right time to come. So for me, that was at a later age, than some other teenagers who make Aliyah right out of high school. And about working in the aerospace industry here in Israel, the industry is very connected to the aerospace department here at the Technion. We have mentors and advisors come over to help, advise on our project. It's a really, really special place to be. It's very connected to the existence of Israel and the defense of the country. But there's also something that's cool for me is there's collaboration, with other groups. Like I mentioned on our project, we collaborate with the Germans, the German Armed Forces, the Technical University of Munich. So that's a really special partnership and just making these relationships that, strengthen the relations, between the countries and also between the universities. That's just been something really special for me to participate in.
Thank you. We have a question from Roberta Geis. Professor Fishman, what do you see is the primary reason that women in tech still hit glass ceilings and glass walls? We read about the studies, and I'm wondering, is something else going on that someone in your position can see on the ground? Women's challenges seem to be worse here in I guess Roberta's in the Bay Area, the so-called global tech epicenter versus the United States geographies where tech is less entrenched?
Interesting question. So I don't think there is a glass ceiling. I think maybe there is a sticky floor. So I think that often women don't want to succeed so well, or maybe they listen too much to 6-year teachers like the one Hila had to tell her she's not good enough. I truly, at least in the Technion, I was also in industry. I did not see anyone telling me you're not good enough. It was me having to fight with Ayelet to say that it's okay that my kids are sometimes in the afternoon spend the time with some caregiver or a grandmother or someone who would, help me to juggle between my different roles. It had nothing to do with people putting like a ceiling in my head, on my head. And I believe that whenever you get an opportunity, you need to take it. When I was offered to be Dean of Students, I knew by the president of the Technion, I knew it meant less time in the lab with my students and that I spend more hours in the Technion than the long hours I usually do. And I said, that's fine. It's a way to make a difference. I can influence the lives of many students. I can make the Technion a better place. We need women in management and I have to be a role model for others. And so I'll have less spare time. So it's all in my head. It's not in, how high the ceiling is. That's my opinion, that we can do anything. It's just that we need to be determined. And you hear the stories here. These are determined women and there's no ceiling for them.
Thank you very much. And we have a shout out for you from Alice Ginsberg from Chicago. And she says, from a fellow Washington University alum, when did you attend Washington University in St. Louis? And it's so nice to see an alum go on to the Technion.
Thank you. I was there from 2009 to 2014 as a student. And then I stayed on after I completed 3 degrees, and then I actually stayed on as a teaching assistant and an advisor until the week we moved to Israel. So I was probably there for 10 years total.
Thank you. Hila, Roberta Geis from the Bay Area asked, will you continue on in the food safety industry?
Hi, can you hear the music in my house right now?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. No or yes?
No.
Okay, good. Okay. Continuing in the food safety, I really hope so. It's very interesting. I actually did a mini project in my master's where I tried to differentiate between bruised apple and healthy apple. You know how sometimes apples get bruised and they get dark spots and soft, and the texture is different and the taste is different. So a lot of the time, the apples get from the field to the supermarkets. They look fine, and then when they are in the supermarket, they start developing these dark spots, and then a lot of apples get thrown away. So I tried to detect, differentiate between healthy apples and bruised apples before you can see it on the surface of the apples. So through the skin, through the peel of the apple. So it actually worked. I was very proud of it. It was just a mini project. I'm hoping maybe to get into it in the future. Yes, maybe.
Thank you. We have a question from Harriet Sy, and this is for Anne. What is your connection to this space exploration?
When I mentioned SpaceX earlier, that was more of a reference. I mean, they've been very big in the news recently in their ability to recover rockets. I worked in the aerospace industry, which, encompasses aviation, space, defense, and I happen to be more on the defense side. I touched on space a little bit, and I because of my work, I can't talk about what I did, but I think aerospace kind of as a whole, the industry is very connected, even though I don't always work on space projects. Like, we're all nerdy enough and excited enough to support and tune in when the Mars rover lands, or when the Israeli lunar lander went to the moon, last year or the year before. We were all watching that, round the clock. So it's a very intertwined community. We all support each other. Our fields are very, very related. You know, working in industry, I consulted with people that worked on airplanes, even though I didn't work on airplanes. So that's the collaboration is really important, you know, and nowadays we see drones and planes even coming to the civilian world with people maybe starting to get packages delivered to their doorstep using drones, or insurance inspectors, you know, kind of checking out a roof using a drone rather than having someone go up onto the roof. So these fields are all very interconnected, which is amazing. And I think we're going to see a lot more collaboration. It's not going to be as, you know, kind of distant as space was back in the 60s during the space race.
Thank you very much. I have a question from Marlene Litbach, and it's to Ayelet. And her question is the research about Alzheimer's disease at the point where it might be tried on humans yet?
It's a good question. No, it's very early on. It is very early. Alzheimer's is a very complicated disease and has many different aspects to it. So we're at the point of understanding how our treatment affects it. Our next point in research will be to use neurons from mice, and then to go on to experiments with mice. Clinical trials very, very far. I hope, I wish that one day we will get there, but at the moment we're at the beginning. And I'm really happy to say that we'll be able to now also start on mice, and that's within the next step in the research.
Thank you very, very much. We have a question from Judy Sager, and her question was, what advice, and I would probably say, Professor Fishman, this would be for you. What advice would you give young women who are afraid to go into STEM fields because of their fear of math?
I think they should find a good role model, because there's no reason not to go into STEM education. I mean, I cannot see a good enough reason not to do it. If you're interested in it, of course. Not everyone likes engineering or medicine, whatever. But I think that I guess most girls think they're not good enough because someone tells them it, either a teacher or maybe their mother or maybe their brother or I don't know, friends. And they just need to do what they believe is good for them and find a role model who will help them, a mentor. In the Technion, we have, I mean, in terms of the women faculty members, we have a mentor program. So I have like 2 younger women professors at their early stages, which I, talk with. We have coffee, I give them advice, they call me if they need something from other departments. And I think this is really important if you have someone that can help you, guide you. And especially it's always important to see the positive side of things, because there are negative sides all the time. We can say that COVID is the worst thing that happened to our society, but it's not going to get us anywhere. So we need to look at the good things and how we can take the opportunity and make something better from it. We say, take the lemons and make a lemonade. So
yes.
This is what I would say also for STEM studies.
Yep. Thank you very, very much. We have one question also for you, Professor. Barbara Gerber Krasner asked, what is the percentage of women in Technion in undergrad and grad divisions?
I think if I remember correctly, it's about 40% in undergraduate students overall the Technion. So some departments are more male dominant, some more women dominant, but overall it's about 40 or 42%. So we're nearing the 50%, which is the normal situation in the population. And I think that in graduate school, it's probably about 50-50. So it's been a great improvement since when I was a student here, which was many years ago. But still, there is room for improvement, because it should be more than 50%, in my opinion.
I agree with you.
Yeah, and also, yes, I would like to thank, I think you, Janie mentioned Rose August support for, we have a nice program for girl high school students, girls from high school students. So we bring them to the Technion and sponsor like a nice visit to the Technion with speakers, women speakers. And this year, since it was, we couldn't bring all the 600 students, we had a comedian, a woman comedian came to the Technion to make a film. And we made a film. I was an actress in the film, so that's how I got to know about it, about all the nice facilities in Technion. And we had recordings of lectures from students and women, and it had a wonderful impact on the girls. And I'm hoping that just by showing them that there are so many students here, and it's not just for men, I just hope that we can get them involved in STEM. Hopefully come to the Technion. I mean, you see that the wonderful students on screen, and there's no reason there would be not more of them.
Right. Thank you very much. I have a question from Rosalind Sokoler and Ayelet. The question is, please tell us about the practical medical applications of your research on Alzheimer's, if you're able to.
So we are actually working with someone from the industry, so I can't really go into the specifics of exactly what we're using, but we're using enzymes, which, as I said, are nature's biocatalysts, which means they're molecules that accelerate reactions. So we are hoping to, we're hoping to skew the brain in the right direction. That's our wish and our goal. But I'm sorry that I can't get into more into it.
That's okay.
Specifics.
That's okay. Thank you. And I have a question from Barbara Gerber-Krasner again, which is very interesting. And I'm guessing that this probably should go to Hila. And it says, do fruits get skin cancer? And are the brown spots evidence of that?
Okay, the condition I was talking about, it's not related to cancer, thankfully. It's just about molecules upon impact, if the apple is falling, interacting with water and air and developing these pigments, brown pigments and strange taste. It doesn't have to do anything with cancer, and not that I know, not to my knowledge. Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
not even
Thank you.
harmful.
And I am
It's
going
not harmful.
to,
You can eat it, of course.
we have one more question, and it is, what is the quality of STEM education in the high school or at the high school level? And I would say probably Professor Fishman, that would probably be for you.
If you ask Technion professors, they would say it's not a high enough level. They would be happy if the level was higher, so the students are more prepared when they come to Technion. But I think that part of being a high school student is to enjoy life and be a teenager. And you can always fill in the gaps before you come to the Technion. We have an excellent preparatory program in the Technion. So even students that, for example, are from a very religious Orthodox background, they don't study any English or any mathematics, they just study religious subjects. They come to the Technion, and we have a program in which they could, study, fill in the gaps in mathematics and physics. And then after 1 or 1.5 years, they're all ready to go into the Technion, and they do very well. So I would hope that we had a better STEM education. I think we're trying to improve it. Some schools are better than others, of course. But mostly, I think we can, we're quite good. I wouldn't be hard on the education in Israel as people like to do it. But of course, not all my colleagues would say the same.
Well, thank you very much to everybody. I mean, your questions were wonderful and your answers were even better. Now, Janie and I would like to thank Professor Fishman, Yelet, Anne, and Hila for spending time with all of us today. It is clear that you are very busy, very accomplished, and we appreciate getting to know you better, even if it's in this virtual realm. And we certainly can't wait to meet you all in person, hopefully on the Watts mission.
Thanks also to all of the viewers joining us today. I think it's clear that your support of the Technion and its students will have an impact far beyond what we heard today. These students represent the excellence and promise of all Technion students. So at your leisure, please visit ats.org for information on additional programming with the students and all other ATS programs. And we hope you have a wonderful, enjoyable rest of your day. And thank you again for joining us. Bye, everybody.
Shalom.
Shalom.